So it seems that in its recent update, it's also looking for, um, I guess, more recency in content, and it's punishing content that hasn't been changed in a very long time. And you can also use the ChatGPT OpenAI API to fairly easily automate this process of reading your articles, suggesting a few edits, and possibly making the edits directly. Especially if you have a lot of content, let's say thousands of articles, it'll be not feasible for a human to kind of go through and update thousands of articles, but you can do that in, let's say, a couple hours with OpenAI.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview with David Tang. David is the founder at Flavy.com, which is the marketplace for business best practices, the same as those produced by top-tier consulting firms and used by Fortune 100 organizations. So, David, welcome to our Risk Management Show podcast today. You've been a long-term partner with a global risk community, and we very appreciate your help.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So I believe that we will have a thoughtful conversation today on how people use AI for content platforms, or for content marketing and prompt engineering a little bit, and for compliance and risk management. Specifically, it's not our topic, but the general questions of AI and how to implement it within a website or helping professionals. We would like to hear your opinion because you implemented this on your website at Flavy.com. But before that, David, could you tell us a short story about yourself, career path, and what brought you to where you are right now, and what you guys at Flavy.com are up to these days?
Sure. So I started my career working at Capgemini Consulting. So I started my career in consulting, and I worked there for about 4 years, and I left and kind of fell into independent consulting. But I left with the intention of starting a company. I just didn't have a business idea at the time. And after working in independent consulting for about a year or so, I kind of recognized that one of the big advantages that the large consulting firms had, that even the small boutique firms didn't have, were these knowledge bases, business documents. And so when they would start projects with their clients, they would essentially deploy them out and have them download all the relevant documents that they have in their own internal knowledge repository. So this would include deliverable examples, best practice, other types of best practice templates, frameworks, thought leadership, white papers, stuff like that. And so the idea for Flavy, when it came about, was essentially creating a public version of what all these large consulting firms had in-house. Essentially a database of business documents so that people can access these kind of proven best practice frameworks, templates, other types of materials, and jumpstart their projects or whatever initiatives they're working on. Instead of having to spend countless hours kind of recreating existing documents or learning what other companies do, they can just download these materials and I would say jumpstart their projects by possibly months at a time. So that's kind of what brought me to start Flavy, and I've been doing this now for 12 years. And also how I guess you and I connected, as you're one of our top authors on Flavy, specializing in a lot of risk management and business continuity materials.
Fantastic, thank you again. And I still use Flavy when I need to get my feet deep in some new topics, like whatever top business topics. Is a very useful platform. So I recommend our members to check this platform, Flavy.com, which is very user friendly. But today we will talk about your implementation of AI and how maybe with some examples how you guys implemented AI-powered consultant, Marcus, on your platform. Maybe you can say some words about this and how we maybe we can think on our platform how to implement in our own website.
Yeah, of course. So I guess with our experimentation with AI, and we're still kind of early on, but I'd be happy to share everything we've learned and done so far. It started with me personally using ChatGPT to kind of play around with the tool, and I quickly realized that it was I felt incredibly useful to the point where I was using it every day, a lot for Flevy, and even for personal matters as well, from stuff as trivial as maybe a plumbing issue to doing a little bit more in-depth market research and brainstorming. I would go to ChatGPT to get ideas, and then realizing how much of a, I would say, productivity enhancement tool this was. I then got licenses for the rest of our internal team that helps develop some of the materials for Flevy. And I noticed for them, I would say it probably increased their productivity by at least tenfold. It's just, I would say, such a powerful tool. And then we started thinking, okay, how can we use this or integrate this technology into our website for our customers? And one of the issues we've had for years now is because we have so many documents on our marketplace. Right now we have we're approaching 9,000 different types of documents, covering essentially all your corporate functions, except for I would say legal and accounting, but over 500 different types of management topics. It's always been an issue for customers to kind of navigate and find exactly what they're looking for, just because there's so much stuff and it's a little difficult to categorize all these different sort of niche topics. And so we thought maybe we can use OpenAI's, I guess, sort of a ChatGPT API to help facilitate this process. And so at first, the idea was really just kind of a, I would say, more automated, nuanced online support tool. But then, I guess, over the months, it evolved into what we call Marcus, which is our AI consultant, where because our customers, they come to us, our customers are essentially the same customers as, let's say, a consulting firm's client. They have some sort of business challenge they're looking to solve, and they're looking for documents and frameworks to help them solve this particular challenge. And so what our tool does is it collects some very high-level information on what the client situation is. So like just let's say their profile information being what their role is and what the nature of their company is, and then a description of what challenges they're having and what they're looking to get solved. And so then our I guess our script will take this information, do some prompt engineering in the background, send it to OpenAI, and do some further analysis from the results to get them produced an automated report that tells them, okay, based on your situation, these are all the, let's say, 5 to 7 different areas you should be looking at. And for each of the areas, it'll provide a fairly short analysis, maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs describing, what are some prescriptive measures they can take. And then ultimately recommending specific documents from Flevy's database of best practice documents that the customer can look further into if they want to make a purchase or learn more about that topic. So that's what we've done so far. I would say that's our primary use case so far with OpenAI slash ChatGPT, and it's been working pretty well. We have a lot of customers using it. Some of them just using it as a research tool, so coming back repeatedly to ask different questions, generating more reports. Another use case we have is, if you're interested, and this is something I think pretty much any e-commerce website can very easily implement, is we've also integrated it into our cart abandonment emails. And so typically, you buy something online and you leave something in your shopping cart, you get an automated email that's very generic. In this case, since we can see what's inside the shopping cart, let's say the person has a document on risk management and a document on digital transformation. And then we'll use OpenAI to try to, based on those 2 documents and a specific nature of those documents, let's say whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or PowerPoint presentation, generate some more customized text in both the subject and the body, and to really kind of convince the customer to come back and make that purchase.
Mm-hmm. And how did
Yeah.
it improve kind of conversion?
Unfortunately, it's very hard to tell, but it definitely, I think if anything, it's at least, let's say, minimized um, our I guess our manpower, because we used to actually do that manually because
Uh-huh.
we wanted to we never really automated that process because we wanted to send something that was more tailored due to the nature of what we sell. So at least we automated that process. It's just very hard to tell exactly what percentage increase it has been because um, I think statistically we just don't have I guess uh, enough numbers to provide a statistically relevant, I guess, conclusion. Um, but I would say it's probably beneficial,
Yeah,
just
absolutely. So
logically.
at least you kind of improved productivity, and you can
Right.
put these people who worked on these emails, you can put it on something else. And but can
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
explain about this large language models, because I think it's a base of creating AI. How kind of organizations can create these models based on their own kind of data they have in their systems?
Sure. So I guess there's a few different levels of integration. I would say we were still, for us, our use cases are more so on the more primitive versions. But I mean, the easiest thing to do is just purely use OpenAI's API and sending over your prompts. And there's a few parameters you can tweak as well, such as temperature, which gauges how creative or how accurate you want the response to be. And then when you get the output back, you can do further analysis on the back end to produce a desired result for your own system. That's how I say, like, let's say almost like the level one integration. Um, the for other companies, they have data they want to supplement, I guess, above what OpenAI has in their large language model, and be included within OpenAI's analysis. You can then further train the models, in which case you would feed the model your, I guess, your documents or whatever data you have, and then you can train the models to produce the results that are more in line with what you're looking for. We haven't done that yet, but that's definitely something that's very possible, and I think a lot of companies are doing that. Um, but I think the most, I would say, important thing for what we're doing is in the original prompt that we send. It's very, very nuanced, and I would say if you were to actually take the prompts and print it out, it would be let's say a page and a half of text. And so what we send to the large language model is very, very prescriptive, um, incredibly detailed in what we're looking for. We provide examples. We provide very specific instructions on what we expect the output to be in terms of uh, writing style and format of the output. Um, and we also are very specific in terms of um, who our audience is, so that it knows, I guess, what level of content to reply with.
Mhm. All right, awesome. So let's dive deeper a little bit to into prompt engineering. Can you explain some
Mhm.
common techniques you guys use, maybe without the detail, just major techniques used in the prompt engineering to enhance AI system performance while ensuring all this kind of productivity advantages?
Sure. I guess I sort of briefly touched on some of that in my last response. And so I would say, well, for a typical prompt, if you look at the sort of introductory material on prompt engineering, as they say, there's about like 6 or 7 factors, which are not all relevant depending on what your current task is. So I would say for what we do, what we focus on the most are one is um, we are very specific in specifying the persona for the large language model. So we'll tell them, depending on the use case, let's say for Marcus, it'll be something like we create the persona that they are essentially a very senior consultant with decades of experience and subject matter expertise in a number of different areas, and they're consulting a client, and that they're looking for, I guess, a response, based on their consulting expertise. We'll also be very, very specific in asking for the output. So in terms of the output, not only would we provide specific examples, and I would say probably providing examples of all the, I guess, different components of a prompt is the most necessary. Even for the most basic prompt, if you provide an example, the output is significantly better than if you were to just let the AI come up with his own response. And so we have a very long list of formatting guidelines in terms of writing style. We notice, AI tends to have a certain particular way of writing. I guess it kind of varies from model to model. But if you use ChatGPT a lot, you can tell if this is a ChatGPT response versus a human response, or versus, let's say, a response from a different model. For instance, it often likes to use fairly long prepositional clauses at the start of sentences, like something like in this highly competitive business landscape, comma, and then the rest of the point is tries to make. So that's like a very common sentence structure it uses. We tell it to not use something like that, because I feel it really doesn't add much value to the meaning of the output, and it's I'll say it's kind of like superfluous information. So we'll have a long list of very specific writing guidelines, how to write, what types of grammar to use, what types of grammars not to use, with specific examples, stuff like that. And then I would say that the last thing that we focus on is the tone. We know we're talking to a business audience, typically executive level, and so we want the output to reflect that. And likewise, the language, the writing style should all reflect that type of customer that we're speaking to.
Fantastic. Okay, David, thank you for explaining this. I would like to ask you a personal point of view on this topic. Maybe what is the major misconception in the field of AI and implementing AI that you kind of strongly disagree with?
Major misconception, you said?
Yeah. Just to understand what people think that are not true.
Well, let me think about that. Well, I feel it's hard for me to kind of put myself back in the shoes of, I guess, my first impression, because I've been using these tools now for, I guess, a year and a half or possibly longer. But I feel a misconception that a lot of people who haven't used a tool have is that the output can't be trusted. I guess because there's obviously some use cases that are so ridiculous and I guess attention grabbing that there's a lot of media coverage on it. I guess the one example that comes to mind is the image generation from Google's Gemini, where you would ask the tool for historical figures like George Washington, and it would come out with a picture that clearly isn't even the same ethnicity as George Washington. So it's clearly hallucinating and producing, very poor results that you're not able to use reliably in a business environment. But I think if you are very, as I said earlier, very prescriptive in what you're requiring in the output, the results are actually great. In fact, I'm quite shocked to this day how I was able to come up with the information that it has. I almost feel like it's able to get information that you can't find anywhere online. So I guess I'm not exactly sure how the AI technology works in that regard, but I find in general the results to be extremely good, and there are things that you can do to ensure that the quality is good. such as asking it to provide all their sources and citations if you're looking for, if your output requires that. So having a cite all the sources, and you can double check that. Something else you can do is, since there's just like 3 or 4 fairly popularized large language models, you could use 2 or 3 of these, ask them the same prompt, and kind of triangulate the results, see if they're kind of saying the same things, or if one is saying something that's very different, you can verify whether that's factually correct or not. Or if I guess in the realm of, let's say, compliance or risk management, if you're analyzing specific policies or regulations or legal documents, you can upload that specific document, into your prompt and have it analyze it, so that the results should be confined to your input data, and that should be easily verifiable.
Well,
Yeah, so I
absolutely.
guess long story short, I would say the big misconception is that the quality of the results are unreliable. I think in some cases that may be true, but if you write your prompt correctly, that's a risk that you can mitigate fairly easily.
Yeah, I even heard in a case that a lawyer used a prompt AI without checking the outcomes, and kind of filled it in the court, but it was actually completely different situation. It was not correct. So I think he lost his license, I think, or something like this.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
about.
Let me just add something to that. And this is also relates back to your earlier question about prompt engineering. I would say one of the main strategies that we use for prompt engineering, kind of related to this issue with the lawyer, and also, I guess, issue with the accuracy of data, is um, what you can do is you can easily take the output and kind of iteratively cycle it back into the prompt and ask it to analyze the accuracy of the results itself. And oftentimes it would find changes to make or inaccuracies and corrections. If you do this a few times, each time the output should be more improved, in terms of whatever you're aiming for, whether it's accuracy or improvements in writing style or clarity. You can, that's a strategy that we employ quite frequently. We'll get a result, and then we'll tell it to critique its own result. Sometimes we'll be very prescriptive and say, like provide 10 edits to this article, and explain your reasons why you feel this is an improvement, and it'll list all those changes. And if you do this a few times, the result is significantly different and better than the original output that it provided.
Okay, thank you for this tip. So let's summarize. So if someone who is listening and he would like to kind of start implementing the stuff that you suggested, AI in the stuff, what would the steps would be?
So if they want to implement, let's say,
AI
within their
on
website,
yeah.
It's actually quite easy. We were surprised how straightforward of a process it was. So first, I would say you can use the ChatGPT interface as kind of the playground for refining your prompt. So I guess whatever use case you're looking at, you're gonna have to start with a prompt, and then you can use ChatGPT to refine a prompt until you get the response that's in line with what you want to get once you scale this, to be an action that's repeated. And so once you have your prompt refined, all you need to do is sign up with their, I guess, their developer program. I don't know the official name of it. Get their API key, and then that's really all you need. And then add it into your script, which just sends over the prompt. I guess their API will send the response back, and then with that response, you can do whatever you want with it. I would say an additional uh, maybe technique or strategy when using I guess the API versus ChatGPT is oftentimes you get your response back and you want to do some sort of analysis on your backend with that response, and so you need to do some parsing of that output. And we found that the easiest way to do that is within your prompt itself, you will tell ChatGPT or Openai AI to put different responses in different tags, let's say XML tags that you make up. Well, let me try to be more clear on that. So for instance, you're asking it a question, you wanted to analyze a policy, and you wanted to come up with a number of recommendations on how to improve it for whatever purpose. What you can say is for each of his recommendations, put it inside recommendation tags, and you put example, let's say bracket recommendation, and you put example of what a recommendation would look like, and then close that bracket. And that way it'll respond with all of his recommendations within these recommendation tags, which you can easily parse. Otherwise, he'll send it back using some sort of article format, which may have formatting that's not easy for your script to interpret. So yeah, for results that are easy for a script to interpret, I would highly recommend within your prompt telling it to break up different responses in different tags. And these tags are basically as nomenclature that you yourself come up with. And ChatGPT will understand what you mean.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much for these tips. So these were all my questions, David. If you would like to add something that I might that will be beneficial to our audience that I maybe forgot to ask you, please go ahead.
Sure. So I guess for us, as I said, we've used it both for our internal usages as well as adding added functionality to our website. I would say adding actual functionality to the website may be something more nuanced that a lot of your audience members may not have interest in. And I assume most, if not, everyone watching has already played around with ChatGPT. So if they're running a firm, a business of any sort, the most I would say that the most prevalent use case of using ChatGPT is probably to develop content, whether to publish on a website or maybe publish on social media, stuff like that. I feel ChatGPT is very good in actually creativity tasks as well. So like brainstorming, we use it a lot for brainstorming. And so if you're looking for ideas, let's say you're an expert on whatever let's say ISO standard, and you want to publish a number of articles on it to LinkedIn, you can use ChatGPT to come up with ideas that are compelling, and you can tell it to either write full lengthy articles or just short posts that you hope to go viral or whatever as a social media post on LinkedIn or X or whatever platform you're using. I feel that's a very useful use case and something that we've tried with in the past as well. And other times, I guess if there's so many, like thought leaders now online, and any business professional is trying to become a thought leader in whatever niche they're working on. And one thing we've noticed recently with Google is, and this may be something relevant to you as well, Boris. So back in March, Google had a very large update to their SEO algorithm, and we were fairly negatively impacted by it. And so we did a bunch of research to try to figure out what the cause of that was. And I think the impetus for a lot of this, for that big algorithm change, is because there's so much AI generated content online. And it's hard for Google to differentiate between what's true or false, or what's high quality or low quality. And so it seems that they put a lot more emphasis on more established websites that they like, let's say the Wall Street Journal or something like that, as well as user generated content on like websites such as Reddit and Quora. And so these websites all took a fairly big boost in their rankings, whereas most other websites seems to have been negatively affected, including Flevy. And we've also noticed that one of their sort of their ranking signals is how often the content you have is updated. And in fact, we tested this out and noticed a immediate change where we're always trying to rank for our products. So our products, the main content would be the document description. So for instance, let's say your documents on business continuity planning. Usually you upload a document, you don't really update the description, really forever, because these are evergreen documents. There's really no reason to do that. And so we took some of these documents and we just added, a couple sentences to the end of the description. And we noticed literally the next day that the traffic started to increase for these materials. So it seems that in its recent update, it's also looking for, I guess, more recency in content, and it's punishing content that hasn't been changed in a very long time. And you can also use the ChatGPT OpenAI API to fairly easily automate this process of reading your articles, suggesting a few edits, and possibly making edits directly. Especially if you have a lot of content, let's say thousands of articles, it's sort of it'll be not feasible for a human to kind of go through and update thousands of articles, but you can do that in, let's say, a couple of hours with OpenAI. And that may be something more relevant to a lot of the audience members watching.
Fantastic. That's all great tips. I will certainly try to implement, especially one with LinkedIn posts and this one with this SEO. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
It was fantastic
For us,
interview.
Cool. Thank you.
Sorry, I may be interrupted. You wanted to add something?
No, I just said thank you. I really had nothing more to say.
All right, David. Thank you very much. I wish you great success with your platform and hope we will continue our collaboration.
Of course, likewise. Thank you for this opportunity. Talk to you soon, Boris.
Thank you.